community outcomes and strategic priorities. I would like to move this, and seconded is Andrew. And I mean, do people have any questions? Because I know that Anne wants to raise an issue which I think we can deal with by way of amendment. But are there any questions that people want to ask? No? Anne, would you like to move your amendment?
Thank you. Just that it would be great to see children as well as youth's wellbeing and voice being prioritised in a citywide strategic plan for children and young people as part of this. So we wondered about putting in under strong communities, strong sense of community, valuing the voice of children and young people.
Yeah.
As an addition there.
Yeah, a separate line. So if we could do that. What I think that does is, I mean, the intention that sat behind the council's vision was to add the words "for all." Christchurch is a city of opportunity for all, and that means that it's for children, it's for older people, it's for people of different cultures, ethnicities. It's a place for people of different abilities, you know, so it's for all, and the expression "for all" really was intended to capture that. But if we are going to consult on the community outcomes as part of the whole engagement process around the prelim to the LTP and the LTP itself, but by adding in a specific one about actively hearing the voice of children and young people, then it does create that sense of, intention. Well, it's the value that comes from doing that is a community outcome. Yeah. If the community as a whole values the voice of children and young people in terms of any decision making that affects the city, then it's a good outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
We're adding that in then?
Yeah,
the line
I think we can add it into the community outcomes.
Great. Happy to second?
Eh?
Happy to agree with that and second, or if required?
Okay, right. But I mean, I'm happy to include it in the, actual resolution. Yeah. Did you have a question, Yanni?
Yeah, just one question. In terms of how will this work, or these directions inform our strategy and work program? Because that's the thing that's kind of missing for me. There's a lot of stuff in here, but I'm just not quite clear. You're going to do a work program. Is that the same as the strategy and planning one, or is that separate?
We've had what we call a strategic alignment steering group set up with heads of units within the council, and the function of that group is to give effect to the strategic priorities, and to find ways to better align our overall strategic direction and work programs. So over time, I think you'll find that things start to align much more than they do now, and you'll see linkages across the organisation that perhaps aren't there at the moment.
What I'm just trying to understand is, I know that we've got capacity issues, and sometimes we get told if we want to do something, we have to drop something. But we don't seem to have any process annually to actually work out, here's what we're going to be focused on this year. And if councils want to, either increase priority or add something new or reduce the priority or something, we don't have any mechanism to do that.
Yeah, I don't know that this paper is designed to answer that question.
It's a work program that one of them is strategic priorities. And what I'm worried about is that might detract from some of the other things that we might expect to happen.
And which will be presented to council. So read the whole sentence. It will be presented to council, so it's coming back to us, and that's the appropriate time.
So just to be clear, my question was, so that's coming back to us. Is that the same as the strategy work program that we already have coming back to us as well? And is it just being put together, or is it separate and different?
So the strategy work program is one part of a bigger work program. So what I heard Gavin say is that we're aligning our current work to see how that fits in with these various areas, and then as new work comes on, we'll also align it so that we know that we're heading in the same direction. The inference is that as you make resolutions about new things that you want done, they'll be under these different directions and priorities. it'd be unlikely that you'd be wanting things in that are outside of this. But we do have a current work program, and the work's happening across the organisation to see where it fits into here to support that direction.
And when does that come into us?
Sorry, what was that?
So that alignment of the work program, which is ongoing, Councillor Johansson's asking, when will that come to council?
Well, an initial work program will come to you later on this year, and that will be presented as part of the LTP process, if you like. But that will include some things that are already planned and budgeted, and some things that are already planned and budgeted, but we may be able to tweak, if you like, to redirect more towards the strategic priorities. And there will inevitably be some proposed new work that the council can then approve or not at that point. And as you say, you may have priorities that override what's put to you in this work program, and that's fine. We can just work with that later on.
All right. Well, look, I'll speak to this because I did ask for this to lie on the table since I wasn't here last week, and that was simply so that I could articulate why I think this is very important and why I want this to be in place for us to develop the long-term plan. Obviously, the number of community outcomes has shrunk considerably. It has been a good process that has enabled us to capture the elements of, I think there were over 60 of them before, and we've managed to narrow them down into these areas. But the strategic priorities enable us to set a direction over the next 3 years, which is the active period of the long-term plan. Enabling active citizenship and connected communities is actually about ensuring that people are engaging in not only with each other but with us as decision makers in a way that actually creates a sense of that citizens are not, I mean citizenship with a small c. It's not requiring a citizenship certificate, but I'm talking about people who live here, work here, who want to have. It's about enabling a relationship that doesn't see them as ratepayers or consumers of services that we provide, but really partners. And we become enablers and facilitators and supporters of initiatives that come from our communities. That's what enabling active citizenship and connected communities is all about. Maximising opportunities to develop a vibrant, prosperous and sustainable 21st century city. We've been gifted this opportunity that has come with the disaster that we've experienced, and I truly believe that we don't honour the lives that were lost unless we take advantage of the opportunity that has come with that. And I really want us to maximise the opportunities to develop this as a city, not only for the people who live here, but people who will live here in the future, as the expression that Ngāi always use. It's for our children and our children after them, and their children after them. Climate change leadership. We had a good debate about this. It isn't enough that we just want to provide for the elements of carbon reduction. We want to lead the way. We want to take a leadership position, and I keep repeating the fact that my favourite book is Benjamin Barber's, If Mayors Ruled the World, and the only reason that it's such an excellent book is it's not really about mayors ruling the world. It's about recognising the fact that nation states, or the borders that exist between nations, cannot stop things like pandemics and global terrorism and even the global financial crisis. They cross countries' borders freely, and the only protection that really can exist in terms of building resilience to such events comes at the city level, the community level. So that's why it's so vital that we take a leadership role. Informed and proactive approaches to natural hazards risks. You know, we are in a vulnerable environment. We have endorsed today in a particular approach around an all hazards environment that is absolutely in line with the strategic priorities that we've set. You know, I've said on many occasions that I'm disappointed at the lack of guidance that is coming from central government in terms of the some of the natural hazard approaches and some of the scientific data that supports a particular view in terms of climate change, but they have but we must continue because we are in a vulnerable environment and we need to take informed and proactive approaches to respond to that. Increasing active public and shared transport opportunities and use. You know, I went onto the joint committee for a reason. I want us to be leading the way. It's very hard to do that when you don't own the routes or the responsibility for actually consulting with the community about where the buses go. For me, that's a real detriment. We don't have a joined up approach where both the routes, the contracts, the type of you know, buses that we might use. I mean, we obviously have an ambition to get to electric so that we're not dependent on fossil fuels at all. But it's really hard to do that when we're only responsible for the road corridors and the bus shelters, and not for the actual public transport system. And then safe and sustainable water supply and improved waterways. This is not last by any means, and it's certainly not least. It is absolutely vital to who we are as a city that we have a safe and sustainable water supply, and that the ambition that we have is to have our waterways in pristine condition. And I mean, even some of the discussions that we had today with the zone committees indicate a real desire around this table to see change happen. The last thing I just want to say is that we've got an overarching principle of partnership. I had preferred citizenship, but it's the same thing. It's about how we engage with each other, and the supporting principles not only apply to how we as a council operate, but also how the organisation operates and responds to the citizens of Christchurch. Accountability, affordability, agility, equity, innovation, partnership and collaboration, prudent financial management, stewardship, wellbeing and resilience, and trust. And I end on that word trust because it is absolutely vital that we not only, I made this comment to the community boards last night, that there is a lack of trust in governments, be they central government or local government, but actually when you analyse what's really going on, that governments have lost the ability to trust the people, and that is what we need to reclaim as a city. So I'll hand over to whoever else would like to speak on this. Phil?
It's really, to be followed by a question, there's just so much good stuff in this, there's no doubt of that in my mind. I just want to clarify around that when the draft long-term plan goes out to consultation, and this is like the framework, will we also be asking citizens and residents to comment on the framework, the overall view? We're going to include that in the consultation. We are, yep. Thanks.
Mike.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Mayor actually for her leadership as we've developed this framework. It's actually really going to give us some good guidance to actually let the city move forward to really actually become, I guess, a very true, prosperous and livable and strong city. I just wanted to, and obviously at the same time, this is not going to take away from the core services that we actually provide, which really is our bread and butter. But I just wanted to touch on the strategic priorities for a second, and it's when you look at them, there's actually a strong lean towards the environment on four of the six.
And so I want to look at climate change, because obviously we do need to be strong and be true leaders with climate change. And we're seeing globally cities that have taken the challenge to respond to climate change, and actually it helps the local economy. So I'm hoping as we move forward and we use this framework as a benchmark, that we do set some strong targets. I want the city to be carbon neutral. I want the council to become carbon neutral before the city does. We've just had a debate just recently which showed actually some really important things we obviously don't need to have public consultation on. So I hope moving forward that we as a council set a target for this organisation and then the city to be carbon neutral, and I hope that happens soon.
No, Vicky's committee's onto that. Right, there was no one else, was there? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.